All right, guys. Welcome to our back pain and sciatica masterclass. My name is Dr. Carrie Jose. I'm the owner here of CJ Physical Therapy and Pilates in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So we do these classes probably 2 to 3 times a year. We do them for back pain and sciatica. We do them for knee pain sufferers. We do them for neck and shoulder pain sufferers. We have a new one coming up in the winter of 2024 for vertigo sufferers that have trouble with balance and fall. So if you like these, definitely stay tuned, and we'll keep you in the loop for when we do the next one, which will be the vertigo one. But this is all about back pain and sciatica. So if you've got back pain or sciatica or both, then you're definitely in the right place. If you're here to try and prevent these things, you're definitely in the right place. A lot of you have let me know that you're here because you've been told you've got stenosis, degenerative disc disease, you've got bulging discs, you name it, and that either there's nothing that can be done, or you've tried physical therapy already, the regular kind, and it hasn't helped you, or it's helped you a little bit, but the problem keeps coming back. Some of you are kind of at your wit's end. You're told that you need to have surgery or some kind of procedure, but sort of something in your brain is kind of like, do I really need that? Some of you are just starting to experience back pain for the first time, and you want to make sure you're doing everything you can to not let it get to that point. Some of you have shared that, like, you've seen your mom or your dad really not take care of their back pain soon enough, and now they're kind of not crippled, but their back really bothers them. They can't go on family vacations. They can't really do things around the house as well for themselves. They're in walkers, and you guys don't want to end up like that. So you want to do everything you can now. So for a lot of you, everything you're going to learn today, you're going to learn a ton. You're going to definitely walk away with a ton of knowledge. So if you don't have it already, I'd get your notebook out. I'd get a pen out. I'd have your phone handy if you're not using your phone to watch this, because you might want to take pictures of the screen. Definitely write things down, though. A lot of you are going to walk away with kind of exactly what you need. You're going to, you're going to walk away with actionable steps. You're going to know different things that you can start doing right away today to help your back, whether it's on the mild side or on the strong side. Some of you, though, are going to potentially realize at the end of this that you actually need help. You need help from a specialist. Specialists, similar to us, if you're in the area, we could probably help. If you're not in the area, we could help you find someone that can. But regardless, for those of you that by the end of this, you say, you know what, that was great information, but I feel like I actually do need help from a specialist. I'm going to outline exactly who needs that and who doesn't. Some of this stuff you can do completely on your own. Some of you are going to need help. We will talk about that at the end, so make sure you stay to the end. We have a special opportunity for people just in this masterclass that are local, that want to get help. They'll be able to get help. So let's get into it. All right, so what are you going to learn today? We're definitely going to go over why so many of you have back pain. It really does affect a lot of people. It's like the second most common reason people end up in the doctor's office. And then we're definitely going to talk a lot about the differences between what people think causes back pain versus what actually causes most back pain. We're going to go over a lot of statistics and details about imaging, which is x-rays, MRIs, because they're great, but sometimes they can be misleading, and you want to be very cautious about letting things like that dictate your whole entire treatment plan. It can often lead to unnecessary procedures and surgery. We're definitely going to go over, everyone's going to walk away with at least 2 or 3 tips of things you can do that are safe starting now for your back pain. And then, of course, if things don't go the way I kind of explained they're going to go, that's just more of a sign that you actually should talk to a specialist. But everything I'm going to talk about is the same things that we tell our clients here on how to prevent back pain and keep it gone. So we're going to go over that. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to sort of outline, hey, if you're in this category, you're doing okay. If you follow these tips, you can probably get rid of your problem and make it go away. But some of you are going to realize, okay, maybe I should at least talk to an expert to at least get a game plan going. So we'll kind of go over that for you as well. A little bit about us. Again, we're here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We specialize in folks who are kind of over 40. A lot of people in their mostly 50s and 60s. A lot of you on here are in that age category. because guess what? That's the age category. A lot of people end up with back pain. Our philosophy is helping people stay active, healthy, and mobile without things like pills, procedures, or surgery. We want you spending the time doing everything you love instead of having to go to doctor's office to doctor's office to doctor's office. So we really believe in empowering you. We want you to feel confident in your body. We want you to feel confident in using movement as medicine, which it really can be done. So that's kind of our philosophy and what we do here. How we do that. We are back pain specialists. We're known for that here in our community. We're also Pilates experts. Pilates and back pain go together. We'll definitely talk more about that later. I mentioned this at the beginning, but a lot of people come to see us after they've tried regular PT or chiropractic treatment, acupuncture, massage. They've tried sort of the conventional, traditional route, and they're kind of faced with this, okay, what now? Do I just live with this? Do I go get this procedure? Do I go get surgery? They'll often find us as kind of that last stopping point before they go and make some kind of big decision like that. And I'm happy to say that, 92% of the time we are able to stop people from having to go that route. So that's something we're really proud of. And then of course, we teach you how to take care of your own back. What we want you to do is, if you do come and work with us, we want to help you get rid of your pain, but then we want to teach you how to keep it going so that really you don't need us anymore. So we teach you long-term solutions versus kind of short-term quick fixes, which a lot of times is what pills, procedures, things like that tend to affect. All right, so a little bit about me. Why should you listen to me? I've been doing this a really long time. I've been practicing physical therapy, I cannot believe it, for over 20 years. I think I'm in my 21 and a half years now, and went to school in Boston. I'm old, so I have 2 physical therapy degrees. I have a master's, and then now I have a doctorate as well. I'm certified to do dry needling. I'm also certified in Pilates. That's sort of how this business was born, physical therapy and Pilates. I've been using both for a very long time, combining them in our practice. I write, it's not on here, but I write a weekly newspaper column for the Portsmouth Herald. A lot of you are here because you've read my column over the years. So I love what I do. I have a fabulous team. 3 of them are on here today. They're awesome. They work directly with all our clients, and we honestly just have a lot of fun here. But definitely been around the block a few times. I've seen probably 1 million backs at this point in my career. Been fortunate enough to help a lot of people, and I truly just love what I do. All right, so let's get into it. Back pain. You're all here for one reason. It's for back pain and or sciatica. You're not alone. It is a very big problem. Millions of Americans experience it at any given time. As I mentioned earlier, it's the second most common reason to visit the doctor's office. About 80% of you on here, if you haven't already, will have what we call a debilitating back pain episode at some point in your life. That's like whether it's like you threw your back out and you're stuck for 3 days, like on the couch, or you just kind of threw your back out. It's kind of the catch-all term, and then you suddenly have searing pain down your leg. Something like that is what we consider a debilitating back pain episode, where you're stuck. Some people literally get stuck like in a certain position, whether it's crooked or forward. 4 out of 5 people get that at some point in their lives. Sometimes once that happens, you get them every 6 months, every year, and I know some of you on here tonight, that's a familiar story. And then it definitely affects people over 40, kind of 45, 50s, 60s is when you really start to see a lot of back pain kick in and start to become more common. It costs a lot of money, not just in monetary value, but it costs people time. It costs people headspace. I talk to so many people about their back pain. They worry about it. They worry, am I doing the right thing? Is it going to get worse? If I don't do something about it, what's going to happen? Am I going to have to live with this? I'm going to have to stop all these activities that I love. So it's costly for those reasons, and it's legit, like literally costs a lot of money. And what's sad about these statistics is that they're preventable. Like you're going to learn as we go along in this masterclass, back pain is preventable and it's treatable naturally, which doesn't cost a ton of money. These statistics are have to do with surgery, and those are expensive. Like lumbar fusion is one of the most common procedures done. I forget the exact statistic, but it's a lot of money, like a ton of money. So we want to try to avoid those things because it just keeps adding and piling on. It also costs money, as I mentioned, and people don't go to work and they just lose, a piece of themselves. They lose part of their life because of back pain. And, it's not fun. And especially from someone like myself who knows that there's so much that can be done, it's like a punch to my gut at how sort of the general kind of healthcare system treats back pain. There's a lot of better ways to go about it, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So what causes back pain? So we're definitely going to dive into that a little bit more, but these are all the things you've probably heard. You've probably gone to, if you're here and you've had back pain, you've probably been to the doctor for it at some point. You've probably had an x-ray, you probably had an MRI, and it will say any one of these things. You'll say, oh, arthritis, degenerative discs. Your discs have shrunk, they're worn away. You've got bulging discs, herniated discs, you've got something called stenosis. And then if you don't have those things, then they'll say, okay, well, must be your posture, must be, stress. Oh, you've got a weak core. So any and all of these things could be why you have back pain. But what we're going to learn is it's not that simple. It's not as simple as saying, oh, herniated disc, you've got back pain, we're gonna, cut it out, or we're gonna fuse your vertebrae. It's just not that simple. So by the end of this, you're gonna have a much better understanding as to why it's like that. To help you understand, we're gonna do a quick anatomy review. Okay, we won't spend too much time on this, but this is what, when you hear those terms, these are some of the things they're talking about. This is what they see on your x-ray, for example. So on the left here is just to show you what a normal spine should look like. We want you to have these natural curves in your spine. And this is actually why posture does matter, because when you don't maintain these natural curves on a regular basis, it doesn't have to be all the time. You don't have to be perfect, but you want to balance the scales. You want to have good posture more times than you don't. This is what your back likes. This is what gives your back the least amount of stress. Our back's designed to be this way, to absorb shock and all of those other things. And then on the right, you can see just sort of what like a little snapshot of your lower back looks like. You've got vertebrae, which are the bones. Those little spinous processes are the backbones that stick out of your back. In between those vertebrae, you've got discs. And then the spinal cord, there's a nice column there for the spinal cord to go through, and you can see the spinal nerves come out in between each one of those vertebrae. And the spinal nerves are what form the rest of your nerves, which are what supply your muscles and things like that, and also sensation. So whenever you got numbness, tingling, or weakness, or just pain referring into your leg, it can be from here, which is the nerve either getting irritated or pinched, which in the next slide, we can see that a little bit more. So on the left, you can see sciatica is literally pinching or irritation of that nerve, usually that nerve root or somewhere along the line. So you can see that these nerves come out of the low back, and then if they're, depending on how irritated they are, they could refer into your butt, they could refer down into the back of your leg, they could refer into the side of your leg, sometimes it goes into the front of your leg, and go all the way down to your foot. And what makes it even trickier is, well, this picture doesn't show it, depending on which nerve gets irritated, it can skip the whole thigh, and actually you might only feel it in your foot or in your calf, which really tricks a lot of people up. We see that all the time in our office. People will go, they'll say, oh, my calf, my foot. They'll say, oh, you've got plantar fasciitis, you've got Achilles tendonitis, you've got a calf strain. And the doctor says that because, it's not the typical presentation, but it is a presentation. They'll go to regular PT, they get all this treatment, and it either will not get better. Sometimes it'll get worse because they're treating the wrong thing, and they're doing things that might be good if you had plantar fasciitis, but it's not good if you actually have sciatica. So we see that all the time. So it's really important to get the right diagnosis. But this is generally what sciatica is, but not everyone gets that. And then usually the biggest culprit is a disc of some sort, because what happens is, you can see on the right here, these discs. This first picture is a healthy disc. This material in the middle is kind of squishy and moves around. It kind of acts like a jelly donut a little bit. And it's normal to have the forces change when you bend, and when you bend forward and when you bend backwards, it puts pressure on different parts of these discs, and it moves this disc material around. But sometimes when we have unbalanced forces, it can start to push it too much to one direction, and that's how we start to get bulges, which is over here. And then in a really bad case, you can get extrusions or sequestrations, which is where the disc material actually like breaks off and squirts out. However, the good news is that all of these things can actually be solved without a surgery, even when they tell you it needs a surgery. The interesting about this one, people are like, well, how do you fix that? Well, oddly enough, when the disc material squirts out, they don't know why, your body just reabsorbs it and it's fine. So these things can all be helped without surgery, and we've helped tons of people with these exact situations. So you can see how varying degrees of this can cause sciatica, but as we'll talk about more, sometimes you can have these things and no pain at all, okay? So we'll talk about that as well. Arthritis and stenosis. Well, a ton of you have asked me about that. A lot of you are here because you've been told that. And this can actually cause bulges as well. You can see over here, you know, as things get crowded, it pushes the disc out. You got a herniated disc over here. But at the top, you can see what that normal, healthy, you know, probably young 25-ish disc looks like. But as you go down the line, these are varying degrees of degeneration and of the discs and what they can cause. We'll learn this, but all this stuff is actually normal. You'll get this as you age, no matter what, and varying degrees depending on what you do. Over here on the right is sort of, if I cut you in half, a cross section, you can see what the healthy spine vertebrae looks like. Nice central disc. You've got plenty of room here for the spinal cord. And then in true stenosis, you get what's called a narrowing, and you start to get kind of wearing in here, and it can start to crowd your spinal cord. You can also get it in between these areas. Like back to this slide, you can get it in between, which can also crowd the nerves coming out. But you notice I said true stenosis. A lot of people have stenosis is normal. You get it as you age. A lot of people will have stenosis and no problems at all. Some people will have stenosis and actually be symptomatic. And a lot of people get that confused. Like I talked to a woman a couple days ago. She had terrible sciatica, and they were blaming it on her stenosis. Well, frankly, stenosis doesn't cause the symptoms that she has. Stenosis is a very distinct presentation. It's usually on two sides. Sometimes it can be on one, but and stenosis is fairly a constant state. When it's true stenosis, it's a different presentation, and that could be a reason to actually get a surgery. But only 5% of back pain cases actually need surgery. They've done tons of studies on that. So you've got to be really cautious and really be questioning what's going on. But this is normal. It does happen as you age, depending on how healthy you are and how you move, which is what we're going to talk about and help you walk away with that understanding. This doesn't have to be as big a problem as you've been led to believe potentially, okay? We have got muscles and ligaments in the back. I mean, these are things that can get tight on their own. They can get tight because they're compensating or reacting to some of the things I just talked about that are happening more on the inside, the structure. But you've got tons of little, you can see over here on the left, tons of little tiny muscles, stabilizing ligaments, things like that. I'm not going to go through all the crazy names, but you can see them here. There's a lot to your spine. So that's why it's really, really hard and almost impossible to isolate your back problem to any one given thing or structure. You can see how interconnected all this stuff is. So I really believe that it's almost a disservice being done to you when they say, oh, it's that. Well, this can cause that, which can cause that, which can cause that. And it's really important to take more of a holistic look at it so that we make sure we're addressing everything and how it all connects together. So that's kind of why I like to show these pictures, to give you an understanding. All right, so now that I said all that, right? It could be disc, it could be stenosis, it could be nothing. How do you figure it out? Well, in our traditional medical system, typically you'll go to the doctor. If you're on the side of, if your back's just a little stiff or just a little nagging, they'll often say, okay, just exercise, or go do Pilates, or go do regular physical therapy. But as your back pain starts to get worse and it's starting to impact things that you're doing during the day, or if you've got sciatica, typically in our traditional healthcare system, they'll want to take a look inside. They want to see what's causing it, okay? So that's usually done with an MRI or an X-ray. So I told you I was going to talk to you about the problems with imaging. This slide that you see right here is from a study that shows what they found in images across all people of all different ages that had no back pain. That's what that word asymptomatic means. So all these people had no back pain. That's the key here. But as you can see, look at by 50, the 80% of all these people, the 50-year-olds, have disc degeneration. So it's impossible to just look at an x-ray or an MRI and say, oh, disc degeneration, that's your problem. Because 80% can have it without any pain at all. You can see the other big one, disc bulging. 60% of people 50, and it gets higher as you go up, can have these things in their MRI but have no back pain at all. That's how we know that these things all occur. You can see it goes up. They all occur naturally and normally as we age. Because we age, things start to settle. It's just part of life. So back pain actually is part of life, but debilitating back pain does not need to be a part of life. It is normal to get stiffer as you get older. Your knees get stiffer, your neck gets stiffer, your back gets stiffer. These are normal things, and it's because of, all like disc degeneration. It's because of disc height loss and things like that. All these things cause your joints to naturally stiffen up. It's just the way it goes. However, with the right education, with the right movement strategies, you can prevent, bad, like painful problems from occurring so that you can still live your life and do all the activities you love with just naturally stiffening joints. So, the point here is to not let your imaging decide alone. You should pair up what you see in the images with a proper movement holistic assessment, because remember that anatomy review showed lots of things. You want to match them up to make sure that either you're in the 20% and the disc degeneration actually is a problem, or are you in that 40% where the disc bulge is an actual problem. You can't decide from an image alone, and that's what's really important. So don't let your MRI decide, okay? The statistics show this. I'm not making this up. I do a lot of research. I write for the newspaper. I do my research before I write my articles. I know this stuff inside out. But the studies more and more keep coming out. 60 to 70% of all adults, most of the age group that's on here tonight, will have these abnormalities show up without having any back pain. So you just can't rely on the images alone. They occur naturally as you get older. So the big problem is that it leads to inaccurate association. So what it ultimately leads to is unnecessary procedures and surgery, because you jump the gun by just saying, oh, it's that thing on the MRI. We must fix that. It's going to cure all your problems. Well, it doesn't. I don't think it's on this slide, or on any of these slides, but the statistics show that back surgery does not. It's not a guarantee. They only works about 50% of the time, and they actually have shown that kind of at year one, if you do get surgery, you will feel better. You'll feel better pretty quickly if it goes well. By year two, let's say you take someone with the same exact pain as you, and that they didn't have surgery, you did have surgery. By about year two, you guys are going to feel the same. The person who did proper therapy with a specialist who knows what they're doing, and you that got surgery, you guys are going to feel about the same. Years 3, 4, 5, the people with the surgery don't feel as good. The people that didn't get the surgery feel better. They've done studies on that. So once you go in, you're compromising your body's natural ability to heal. So yes, there are cases that truly need a surgery. They usually have to do with what we call progressive neurological deficit. That does not mean your foot's just a little numb. It doesn't mean that you've got pain in your leg. It's like it's very obvious you're quickly declining, and it's more of a constant presentation. Bowel and bladder problems, red flags, things like that are what we're like, okay, you need to go right now, get this looked at because your nerve is severely compromised. You want to get that fixed. Or really debilitating pain that nothing will help it. And we'll actually go over that. And if that's you, that's a different story. But remember, I said only 5% of cases are like that and that truly warrant an actual surgery. So after all that, what really does cause back pain? Well, now we're going to shift into what we're here to talk about. So what really causes back pain is it's usually something called mechanical in nature. And that's actually what we specialize in. We're mechanical pain experts. And we'll go over what that looks like, but it's essentially something that happens usually slowly over time, and it's basically the mechanical pain tends to encompass that more holistic version of all that anatomy looked at. So we want to see like what's not moving well, what is moving well. Because for example, you could have a bulging disc and you don't move very well because you've got muscles that are restricted and you've got other joints around that disc that are tight. So you are getting that disc constantly irritated. It's not the disc by itself, it's the things around it, versus another person who has that disc who works out regularly or just maybe didn't have a job that put them into compromising positions their whole life. They're going to have the same bulging disc with no pain at all. That's why those MRI studies show up like that. It's because of this thing called mechanical back pain. So let's talk about some low back pain. So 70 to 80% of all back pain is mechanical. Everything I just talked about. So what that means is it can't be isolated to a structural cause. It can be influenced by some of those structural things, but it can't be isolated to that. So that's why you want to be cautious about fixing the thing when 2 or 3 or 4 of those things could be working together, and you can actually fix them naturally. You don't need pills, you don't need procedures, you don't need surgery. Mechanical back pain is fixed with movement, but it's specialized corrective movement and some lifestyle corrections. And it absolutely cannot be seen on an x-ray or an MRI. So that's what mechanical back pain is. It's kind of a foreign concept to a lot of people. But that's what we educate a lot about because 70 to 80% of the time, that's what it is. So it's important to understand this concept. So here's where you can now get your pen out, check off what things maybe sound familiar, because this could be, these are the common signs of mechanical back pain. So pain comes and goes. Raise your hand if you have good days and bad days. You know, one day you'll think, oh my God, I'm like, I gotta get to that doctor, my back's killing me. 2 days later, wow, feels pretty good. Often no rhyme or reason, you don't really know why, but good days, bad days, pain comes and goes. That's a really hallmark sign of mechanical back pain. Your pain will move around. One day it'll be here, the next day it'll be down in your butt. Back might feel okay, your leg is really achy, and then one day your back is killing you, leg feels great. Like things that move around are also a big sign of mechanical back pain. Typically, it's kind of appears out of nowhere. You'll sneeze, oh my God, I threw my back out. Or you'll be fine. You'll go to pick something up the wrong way, bam, there goes your back. If you've had surgery, maybe it didn't work because they fixed the thing when the thing was actually being irritated by all these other things. That didn't get fixed, so now your pain came back. Same thing with injections. They'll do steroid injections, which are designed to take away all the inflammation. Well, if the inflammation was there because of all these things that you're doing that basically are mechanical back pain, it's not going to help. So that's a big sign. When those things don't work, it can't be isolated to a thing or a structure. And then the biggest sign too, one of the biggest signs besides the pain comes and goes, is that you feel better when you move. You feel better when you exercise. I talked to someone yesterday that said, you know, their back will always hurt a lot when they first start to walk, but if they push through it, their back feels better by the end of that walk, comes back the next day. But that's a sign, like movement, exercise helps them. So, and here's the thing, if you've got stenosis in your back, the stenosis doesn't suddenly go away when you walk, right? So it's impossible to say that the stenosis is the thing causing your problem, because something else has to do with it, because you're walking and you feel better. Some people tell me, oh, they sit for a long time, the pain starts to get into their butt, their foot goes numb, it goes down their leg, but if they stand up, they feel better. Well, again, the disc doesn't, well, the disc does actually move in and out, we'll talk about that, but the structure didn't change per se. So when things move around, good days and bad days, that tells us it can be influenced. It can be influenced by movement. So we want to always try that route first before we go and get surgical or artificial, okay? So what's the technical definition of mechanical low back pain? These are a bunch of fancy words, but I thought I'd give it to you anyway. Mechanical low back pain arises intrinsically inside from the spine, intervertebral discs, those discs I showed you about, or surrounding soft tissue. So again, back to that anatomy review, it could be any or all of these things. It's really challenging to isolate it to one thing. So what this definition is really saying is that the pain comes from these sources intrinsically, from inside your spine, from the vertebrae, from the discs, from the tissues. What we care about, though, is what's causing those structures to get irritated. When we fix that, you can now control this, and that's the key. That's why 70 to 80% of the time it can be fixed naturally. So what contributes to this mechanical back pain? Well, now we're talking about more of the lifestyle, sort of softer, sort of gray things, right? Like posture does matter. Your lifestyle, how mobile you are. The more mobile you are, the more room those structures have to be kind of free to do their thing, and they don't get irritated or squished as much. Sitting is a big one. Too much sitting will, as we kind of talked about a little bit, alters the force on those discs. It can lead to bulges and it can lead to irritation. Just poor movement habits. You just don't move very well, or you move imbalanced. So any and all of these things are actually what leads to mechanical back pain, because these are the things that will kind of, excuse my language, piss off the structures, right? That's why some people can have the same exact MRI, no pain. Other people will have a lot of pain, and it's usually these are the variables, okay? So how do we fix it, okay? Or what do we have to do? So again, lifestyle imbalance movement. So you can see the commonality in these pictures is forward flexion. I think I have a slide on this later, but the average person bends or flexes 3,000 to 5,000 times a day, the average person. Then you add in, I talked to a woman earlier, she's a seamstress. She's gonna be on the higher end of that, more than probably 5,000-ish times. She's just sitting and bent over constantly. Landscapers, construction workers, office workers, all of you have put over the years at like unbalanced stress on your spine, and it eventually leads to structures getting irritated, angry, and they start to hurt. The structure isn't the problem, it's what you did around that structure to get it angry. So the good news is if you fix and balance these things out, you can feel a lot better fairly quickly, and you can solve this yourself, okay? So I mentioned this, frequency of flexion and sitting. So 3,000 to 5,000 times a day, we sit or bend, and it causes imbalances on these discs. So I mentioned the disc kind of acts like a jelly donut. So if I bend forward, okay, if I bend this way forward, it's like I'm squishing, if this was the back, and this is the front, where the words are is the front of you, and the back, the empty space is the back. When I bend forward, I'm squishing that disc and it starts to push backwards. Actually, if I flip it around, that's what these are doing. But if you go the other way, you stand upright, even bend backwards a little bit, you're gonna keep the forces balanced. So in a perfect world, we stay balanced, and then these problems don't happen as quickly and they don't become as problematic. It's when we have the imbalance that you can really have these issues over here that start to irritate things. The example I give a lot is like, let's take your elbow for an example. You know what fully straight looks like, you know what bending looks like. Because we move our elbows frequently throughout the day to eat, to grab things, to get dressed, we know right away when something's not right. We know when it's not straightening, we know when it's not bending. So we're less likely to have a problem like this in our elbow joint. It can happen, but we're less likely to have a problem because we just notice it quicker. So, if it's not straightening all the way, you're just gonna naturally kind of straighten it. If it's not bending all the way, you do the same. And sometimes it doesn't even happen because you just move your elbow joint through its full motion on a regular basis. The problem in the spine, this goes for necks as well, is that we just don't move our spines through their full range of motion. It gets worse as we get older. It's worse if you sit all the time. It's worse if you bend all the time. So it's like I'm over bending, and I do that all the time. Eventually my elbow's gonna get really stiff straightening out, and it's gonna hurt, and that's what causes the problem. So that's why we see this show up more in our spine than in some of our other joints. It can happen in our other joints as well, but that's kind of the basic concept of like mechanical pain and how this all starts to happen, to kind of help you understand it a little bit better. So poor posture, inactivity is going to do something similar. It's going to definitely affect your joints, but you can also have a problem in your muscles. So, and you can, or both. So when you are constantly kind of slouched and bent over, you're doing, again, if I do this all the time, this is going to start to get achy and stretched out, and it'll actually lose its elasticity, and it'll get weaker. It won't feel good, and then it's just going to start to hurt all the time. That's kind of what we call that creep phenomenon. So we want to keep our joints and our movements balanced and moving through what we're given, like what it's supposed to do. And you do that through regular activity, things like that. Now, some of you have gotten a little bit past that point, where if you suddenly try to start walking or standing up all the time, your structures might be so angry that you need help getting them back to a baseline where this stuff is actually going to work for you. So that's what I meant at the beginning, where some of you are going to try some of these things, and you're going to realize, oh my gosh, like, and there's some consistency to it, which I'll go over. You're going to realize, wow, like, I can't believe this is all I needed to do, and I feel so much better. But some of you might be a little bit past that point. So that's where you need the help, because you can actually make yourself worse if you go too much too quickly. It's kind of like anything. You go to the gym, you're trying to run, whatever, even like golf or something like that. You have to start where you're at, and some people need to go a lot slower, and they need a lot more instruction at the beginning versus some people might be further along. So that's kind of, you have to keep that in mind when you're listening to some of these tips, okay? So what can you do about it? So that's what we're going to get into next. So remember, naturally, 70-80% of the time, okay? So we do things like, this would be, assessing mobility, working with the specialist. Definitely we incorporate things like postural correction, and for sure we get into exercises and strengthening your core. It's, we don't kind of do it all at once. We sort of have a system for it, but these are a lot of the common things that we'll do. As far as things you can do starting now, for sure, whether you have back pain or not, this is one of the biggest reasons people get into trouble. You want to not let yourself sit too long. You want to try to balance off the scales from that 3,000 to 5,000 times a day statistic. So stand up at minimum every 30 minutes. Give your back a break from that position. It's the equivalent of don't get stuck like this all the time. Every 30 minutes, give it a break. So you want to interrupt your sitting. That alone will start to help your back. Now, if you try this tip and you feel worse, and that's a clear sign. You got to talk to somebody, talk to a specialist who understands this, because, let's say it's a big bulging disc. We need to kind of like slowly ease your back into that and accommodate for it. It can be done, doesn't need surgery to fix it, but you want to, watch out for these things. But majority of the time, just this simple tip is going to help a lot. Make it easy on yourself. So we got these things, lumbar rolls. We actually sell them here in our office. They're like $40. If any of you are interested in getting one, talk to either Dr. Holly in the chat. She can figure out where you are and we can get you one. But they're $40. They're phenomenal. I use one in my car every day. Use it every time I'm sitting. But what it's doing, whoops, it wants to go haywire on me. What it's doing is it's helping this person be able to just remember those natural curves in her spine. That's what this lumbar roll is doing without her having to have too much effort. Some people are always, I got to strengthen my core so I can sit up straight. That's not true. You don't want to that's not how it works. We actually shouldn't be sitting a lot anyway, but if we do have to sit, we want to support ourselves to make it easy, because we weren't really designed to be sitting all the time. We were designed to be walking around, hunters, gatherers, things like that. But we are in a lifestyle now that we have to sit. We travel on planes, trains, cars. We sit at desks, so we do have to sit more than we were designed to do. So we want to make it easy on ourselves, not rely on like muscles to do it, because then you can get an opposite problem where those muscles just get so tense all the time. Now you're having a different kind of problem because you're trying to correct one thing and you cause another. I've alluded to this already, but we bend too much, so you want to extend your spine. This is something that is generally good for most people. However, again, you try something like this and you notice you're feeling worse, huge sign, talk to a specialist, because sometimes you need to work your way up to this movement and you need to do something else first to get here. And you could actually irritate your structures more if you do something like this and you notice it's getting worse. But if it feels good, or even just standing, doing that, back starts to feel better, it's a good thing. But your spine is supposed to bend and extend, okay? And a lot of times people will come in and say, oh, my doctor told me I had stenosis. I'm not supposed to bend backwards. Well, here's the thing. If you have true stenosis, you do have to back off of that a little bit, but there's no way you can get about your day without extending. Walking, you have to extend your spine. Standing up, your spine needs to tolerate a certain amount of extension. So you can't get around it. But what I have found more often than not is people have been mislabeled that stenosis is the true cause of their problem, and then we work on them with this. They start extending their backs more, and they feel better, which tells us the stenosis wasn't the problem to begin with. But that's a great example. But these are natural movements that your spine's supposed to do. Just like I'm supposed to be able to straighten my elbow, I'm supposed to be able to bend my elbow. You lose one or both of those things, you're going to start to have problems. Okay, so full and free movement is a lot of our goal with mechanical back pain. Once you do all that, once you get, what we say, mobility before stability in our office, once you get the joints and everything moving fully and freely as you can the way it's supposed to, and again, that varies by age. We're not trying to have you move the way you were when you were 20 years old or 25. We're trying to find your best movement for you at this point in your life. We want to explore that. Once we get that there, now we start to strengthen, because this is the part where this is going to help you keep your pain gone. It's going to help to maybe if you had something that was compromised, whether it was a nerve or something like that, that muscle kind of isn't working as well. So we've got to help target and get those muscles that had kind of been asleep at the wheel, if you will, for a little while, get them working again. So that's where the strengthening comes in. In our office, we happen to love Pilates. We use that a lot. But there's other things too. Like I'm a huge fan of lifting weights. I think the two of them go so well together. So strengthening your core in particularly is something that's going to really help stabilize and support your back, so that you just feel better. And it's going to help keep that pain gone and prevent future episodes. And then lastly, we talked about this. It's a good idea to see a specialist, even if you're just trying to figure out, do I have mechanical back pain? Because if you have mechanical back pain, that means you can treat it naturally with the right corrective type of movement. So you need to diagnose it properly. We figure that out in here on day one with what we call repeated movement testing. We know this because, as we talked about earlier, mechanical back pain comes and goes, good days, bad days. You don't always have back pain the minute you sit. You'll have back pain after 30 or 40 minutes of sitting. So we have to repeat things and really test things under pressure to truly figure out what's going on. You don't do that, sadly, like in a doctor's office when they kind of look at you real quick. They have you move this way, maybe like 30 seconds or a minute or so. That's not going to give you a true picture of what's actually going on. And when you're in an MRI or an X-ray, you're not moving at all. So you can't figure out the movement problem without actually doing movement. So that's where when we say we want to get the correct diagnosis, we want to figure out what your pain pattern is, how many of those structures are involved, how do they influence and talk to each other. That's all critical in getting this right and actually having lifelong relief instead of temporary relief. So once we do all that, we want to restore and optimize what we can. Then we want to strengthen and stabilize it. And then we want to teach you how to correct and maintain all this so that you on your own can keep the pain gone. So that's what we do when people come to see us. That's a reason to see a specialist, particularly a mechanical pain specialist that actually understands this kind of stuff, because not everybody does. Luckily we do, and we're a huge fan of this. And again, 70-80% of the time it's a problem. There's 20% that don't, but we know how to work with that as well. But this is what we find is most people. So let's review some takeaways, okay? So back pain is real. If you think you're crazy, you're not. 80% of the population is affected by it. It's expensive, both mentally and monetarily. I met someone the other day that, sadly spent $4,000 on a procedure that not only didn't work, found out later that she didn't even need. I mean, that's just awful. I see that more times than I'd like to admit, but it's a thing. So you don't, it costs money, okay? Sometimes because you're spending it on stuff that doesn't work, or you're just throwing you're throwing money at the wrong problems. It's very often misdiagnosed through MRIs and X-rays, or you're just too focused on the thing instead of looking at the whole picture. And that is ultimately what leads to unnecessary procedures and surgery, which can then lead to other kinds of problems down the line. So those are the biggest takeaways I want you to walk away with. And then finally, that 70 to 80%, so the majority of you here do have what's called mechanical back pain. You cannot see it on an X-ray or an MRI. You need a proper assessment from a mechanical pain expert, and you need to move a lot to really figure it out, confirm it, and then figure out how to fix it. So that's pretty much what we have for you in terms of back pain. And then, as I mentioned, if you guys on here, if any of you know right now, you're like, okay, I think I have mechanical back pain, or I don't know if I do, I really want to find out, I think I need to talk to someone, I don't think I can do this by myself, you can come talk to us. You do need to be local for this. If you're not local, talk to one of my team members in the chat. They'll take your name and email down. We'll get in touch with you personally, and I'll get in touch with you personally and try to help you maybe find another option in your area. But if you're local, you do want to come in and talk to us. I believe, I can't see the chat yet. I'll stop this screen share in a minute. But we have a link that we're putting in the chat right now. You can click on it and schedule yourself. I have to tell you that we are very busy in the office, so there might not be a ton of times. I did open up my schedule for tomorrow morning. So if you want to get in and you're free tomorrow morning, I would definitely grab one of those spots. Otherwise, we might not be able to get you in until next week. And, I hate to have you wait too long to get help if you are looking for help. But what we do, we don't believe in wasting anyone's time or money. We want to make sure that, number one, we can help you. I can usually tell by asking you some key questions whether or not you do have that mechanical pain. And if you do, you are a good fit for what we do. So that's what this discovery session's for. We'll let you know that. And then, of course, we want to make sure we're a good fit for you, because we're highly specialized here and we're not a fit for everyone. So that's why we do this. And we usually only offer about 2 to 3 of these a week, but anytime I do this masterclass, you guys obviously took the time to be here tonight. I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to come in. So I always open up my schedule a little bit extra just for you guys. So I hope that if you are looking for help and you think you need it after hearing me talk about this tonight, that you'll take advantage of that. So I'll let my team keep helping you with that and putting the link in the chat. But now I am ready to take questions. So who has some questions for me? It's always so quiet. Who's got questions? Don't be shy. And if you don't have a question, what I want to hear is, I'd love to hear what you guys learned. What did you learn? What are some of your takeaways after hearing all of that? Anyone? Jeff, what you got?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest takeaway was that this is really more mechanical than it is, the bulging discs and the herniated discs that I've been told that I have. And there's hope that with some less invasive options that this can be taken care of. So thank you.
Yeah. Have you been told that you need a surgery or something? Or
I won't let anybody go down that path with me. I'm not there yet, and
That's good.
Yeah, so no.
Yeah, so stay down that path, because really it's very rare that you need it, and bulging discs are a classic mechanical back pain sort of presentation. So thank you for attending, and I'm glad that was your takeaway. Who else has questions, or I'd love to hear takeaways or what you learned? Lynn, do you have something? I think you're trying to unmute. Here.
So not really a question. And I'm sorry, I think I've shared with you that my life is a little busy these days, so I haven't had time to explore, but I know that where you mentioned so much about Pilates in your practice, can you talk a bit about, like, once people get their mechanical problems started to be worked on, is it correct in thinking that you also have, besides just the therapy?
Yes.
You have opportunities for Pilates in your...
Yeah, exactly. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So basically, the typical path of someone that becomes a client or works with us is usually they've got back pain or sciatica. So we don't want to skip steps. Even though Pilates is known to be really, really good for back pain, it's good for definitely preventing it and really keeping things mobile and strong and healthy. If you jump at it too soon, it can actually make your problem worse. So we like to, really define the true, in the nitty gritty of your mechanical back problem, get rid of the pain, teach you how to keep it gone, and then my specialist will incorporate Pilates into the treatment a lot of times, because back to where I said, sometimes muscles just have kind of fallen asleep at the wheel and they don't come to the party anymore. We use the Pilates springs and various equipment. What's so great about that is it targets, I always say you can't cheat on the equipment. So it targets those little tiny muscles that have fallen asleep at the wheel, gets them awake again so that they're coming to the party, and then everything just starts to work and feel better. And then people will use our classes to maintain all that and just use it as almost like their own therapy. So like a lot of our clients will do Pilates once or twice a week. They also go to the gym, or they also do yoga. They also run. It's kind of like their maintenance therapy, and it does help you to slowly over time get stronger. And what I like about it is both lengthening and strengthening. That being said, people come in who don't have back pain, or they've passed that point, luckily, and they want to make sure that they're doing everything they can to prevent it and keep getting better. They'll just pop right into Pilates. So if you've got back pain presently or sciatica, I always make sure to talk to people first, because I know that's how people get hurt in Pilates, is they don't have a place that understands both sides of things, and they'll go excited to finally work on their core and cure their back pain. It actually makes them worse, and it's just because they needed a few steps done ahead of time. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, John, loud and clear.
Okay.
What you got for me?
I have two things. First of all, I want to thank you for your excellent presentation. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And second of all, I want to thank Dr. Holly. I've been communicating with her online here, and look forward to the information she's going to be sending to me.
All right.
I appreciate all that you always do. I wish I lived on the West Coast instead of the East Coast, but I live here in New York, and it's a little bit too far to get to your office. But again, I want to thank you. I mean, what you do all the time is great.
Thanks, John.
It's very helpful. I have sciatica, and it's like I've taken physical therapy for it, and it's been very, very helpful. I do a lot of exercises. I don't know what I'm going to do 20 or 30 years from now, because I'm already 89. But
Wow, you look it.
I'm turning 90 in January, and my friends always say to me, I can't believe it, but I look in the mirror. I know it's there. You can't change what's there.
Well,
But again, thank you very much, and I really do appreciate what you do.
you're so welcome. And listen, everybody, I hope you can see John. He's a poster child. He's doing something right. He's doing something right, even though you got a little bit of back pain and sciatica. But thank you for being here. I appreciate your comments.
You're welcome.
Carrie,
Hi.
do you treat a combination of hip?
Is that Maria? Is that Maria?
Yes.
Hi, Maria.
Hi. Do you treat a combination of hip and back pain?
Absolutely. In
Oh,
fact,
good.
I should have put that slide up, but 70, at least 70, I want to say 78% of the time, hip pain is caused by the back, even when you have no back pain. So 40% actually of all extremities, knees, whatever, that's kind of an aggregate. 40% of all what we call extremity pain, so knees, elbows, whatever, has a source to the spine, even when you don't have spine pain. But hips are a big one. Hips and actually forearms, believe it or not, for the neck, and hips for the back. 70+% will be absolutely related to back. So we don't look at, even if you come in saying it's my hip, it's my hip, it's my hip, we always combine the back with it. So you have
Perfect.
hip pain, Maria?
Excellent presentation, and I love your energy. So I did an appointment. I live locally, so I
perfect.
shall meet you soon. Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else? Who else?
There is a question, Dr. Carey, saying, do you take insurance, or asking, do you take
That's
insurance?
a great question. So we actually talk a lot about that when we do that free discovery consult, because that's part of figuring out if we're a good fit for you. Some we do, some we don't. Some people have options, others don't. We are highly specialized, so most people find that by the time they get to us, or if they do want to work with us, they are more than willing and happy to pay some out of pocket if they need to. But it's kind of a loaded question since insurance plans are so kind of varied. But most people, by the time they get to us, I mean, if insurance is an absolute deal breaker for you, we might not be a good fit for you. But if we find that 90% of the time, people are open to the idea of investing a little bit in their health, because at the end of the day, I mean, this is all you got, right? We got one body, one life, one set of time on this earth to be happy and do everything we love to do. And I personally don't think you should put a price tag on that. So that's hopefully that kind of answers that question. Let's see. Do you have a question, Mary Jo? You finally got on. I'm very happy to see you.
That was my question, Rick.
Okay. Are you? Yeah. So yeah, perfect. Great question. Like I said, a lot of people are, sometimes they don't take their insurance. They absolutely are happy to we work with people, various things, payment plans, things like that to make it work. So we like that not to be a reason for you to not at least come in and talk to us for that free discovery session, because that doesn't cost you anything and you're going to walk away with a ton of information, a lot like what you've learned today, but more specific to you. And you'll at least walk away knowing what's going on after talking to us. So it can't hurt you to do that.
Very good. Very good.
You have another question, Lynn? Sorry, Mary Jo, I can't hear you very well. What were you saying?
That's all right. Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome. Lynn, what you got?
Just so I can share this info with others, a discovery session, is that more of a dialogue or is it some kind of partial assessment or?
It's more of it's an assessment, but we don't actually touch you or we don't do that movement assessment. That's what we're kind of deciding if you want to do and move forward. But I can figure out typically 90% accuracy what's going on with you just by asking some very key questions. Sometimes if I'm kind of curious about something, I'll say, all right, stand up. Let me just see something. I'm kind of wondering about X, Y, or Z. But it's typically, us, just you and me. I want you to tell me everything that's been going on with your back, how long it's been going on, how's it impacting you, what makes it hurt, what makes it feel better, what have you tried, what's kind of worked, what has not worked. We go through all of that, and by the end, we usually have a pretty good picture of what has been missing in your treatment, what you need to include in, what's been going on, and then I let you know, all right, I think we can help. I think you should start here. I think you should. Maybe you don't need to see my specialist. I think Pilates is the way to go. We have this thing called shockwave therapy. Sometimes we realize, you just got tight muscles. Get in here. We can do some shockwave on it. You're going to be good to go. Then go to Pilates. So there's lots of avenues. So that's also part of what the discovery session is for, to sort of narrow it down for you and help you figure out where I think the best place for you to start would be. And then it's up to you how you want to move forward. If that makes sense.
Carrie, can I make one comment?
Sure.
Yeah, no, just something. I was listening to everything you were saying about what people should do and not do. One thing that's over the years, and it's going back, I've had the back problem for 30, 40 years, is I have an L5-S1 narrow disc space where the nerves compress, in that area. And I find that if I wear a backpack, it hurts it, and it will bring on an episode. If I don't put anything as heavy weighted on my shoulders or back, I very rarely get an episode. And
Yeah.
a lot of people make that mistake.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that particular example is there could be two reasons it's giving you a problem. The first reason could be that wearing a backpack causes you to lean forward a little bit, and that could be what's pissing off your nerve. Sometimes it's just the load, and you need to strengthen. So you don't that's the kind of stuff we help people figure out, which one is it, because you should be able to wear the backpack. We want to figure out why that backpack is aggravating you. Do you need strengthening? Do you need more of a positional correction, or do you need both? That makes sense.
I probably need a little bit of both, and it's probably that at 89 it's sometimes hard to carry a heavy backpack.
I mean, yeah, you do have a little bit of a pass there, I would say. But yeah, no, good question. Good question. Appreciate that. Or good comment, I should say. Anyone else? You guys have questions or takeaways. I'd love to hear, like I said, what you learned, what you took from this. Did it help? Let me show of hands. Who found this helpful?
I found it very helpful.
Good. Anyone? Oh, Holly, what you got? Did someone have a question for me, Holly? Okay. John, Jean, iPhone, you guys have been quiet. Have any questions before we wrap up?
You were great.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
And tell Holly I appreciate what she's going to do for me.
I will. You're giving Lynn competition for my biggest fan here. Jean, did you have something you wanted to share or say? I thought I see. Can't tell. Jean, did you want to say something? You're good?
Everybody's so quiet.
All right. Well, if you guys have any questions that you think of after we wrap up, feel free to email us. And then, like I said, how many, Holly, discovery visits do we have left? 3. Okay, we got 3 spots left. So if any of you didn't sign up and you want to grab one, make sure you sign up. But otherwise, we're going to wrap up for the evening and go enjoy the rest of your night wherever you are. And I hope to hear from some of you guys soon. And, if you have friends or family that you think really could use our help, or that you want to share this with, feel free to share this replay with them. And maybe they missed out, but they might realize, oh crap, I need help too. So you can share the love, if you will. But thank you all for being here, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay.
Take care.
Bye.